The wayfinding landscape is changing, so welcome to Endpoint's Wayfinding Xchange Podcast. We want to connect with leading experts, tech innovators, and key contributors to exchange knowledge and innovation in physical and digital wayfinding. We want to shape the future of wayfinding through discussion, collaboration, and shared expertise. And this is why we have created this podcast series. Enjoy the episode.
Okay, hello everybody and welcome back to the Wayfinding Xchange Podcast. In today's episode, we have the great pleasure of interviewing Cybelle Jones, the CEO of the Society of Environmental Graphic Design, or SEGD for short. Very briefly, the SEGD was established in 1973 and serves as a global platform for graphic and exhibition designers, architects, creative technologists, and educators who specialise in creating experiences that connect people and place. For more than 50 years, SEGD have been the leading resource for wayfinding, placemaking, and experience design. Its membership exceeds 2,000 individuals from 36 countries, engages through local chapters and an annual SEGD conference, which we'll talk about later, and various educational symposiums and events. 46 chapters worldwide, SEGD is a dynamic and influential advocate for the transformative potential of experience design. So, thanks for taking the time out, Cybelle.
Thank you.
It's really nice to meet you. We've never met before. I'm sure we'll be meeting next week. Just so listeners know, next week is the SEGD annual conference, which is a pretty big event in our world. I mean, let's start there. Just give us a little rundown of what goes into putting on an SEGD conference and all the things you're tackled with at the moment.
Oh my goodness, Gideon. Okay, well, stress levels high always before a national conference, but we do host annually a conference where we bring all of our members together and we move that conference around so that we try to capture people in different parts of mostly the U.S. Last year, we had our 50th anniversary, which we held in Washington, D.C. This year, next week, as you said, we'll be in Dallas, Texas. And so we host a series of talks over the course of 3 days. We do tours. We do tours of environmental graphic, great placemaking, museums, branded environments. So next week, we'll be going to the Art Deco Fairgrounds and to the Dallas Cowboys Star and to some of the museums in downtown Dallas, and some placemaking as well this year are going to be focused in how experiential design enhances the human condition through things like brain health and sustainability and things like that. And then some of our exciting things that we do is we have our Global Design Awards, which is an annual design award competition, which will announce the awardees on Friday evening. And then Saturday morning, we have our Achievement Awards, where we recognize outstanding individuals in the practice of experiential design.
Amazing. Thank you. We're actually going this year, so we can't wait to experience Dallas and see some of those amazing projects you're talking about there. Before we get more into SEGD and what it offers members and members' clients, I guess, I'm always interested to find out a little bit about our interviewee's design journey. How did you become CEO of SEGD? What led you there? So, yeah, if you share a bit of your backstory.
Yeah, I would love to. Well, I think I was just one of those kids who was always into art. I don't know that I knew the term design when I was young, but I was a Lego aficionado before Legos were what they are today. And I found myself as a kid constantly in spaces, and in my imagination, I would redesign them. So that was like a hobby of mine. If I was waiting at a dentist appointment, I would think, well, this would look better if this was designed this way. But by the time I was deciding what to do for college, I was kind of in between art and architecture because, there wasn't something for experience design or environmental graphic design at the time. And I landed in architecture school. But what was the turning point of my career was an internship in Washington, D.C. for a firm that designed museum exhibitions and architectural lighting. And I landed there 19 years old and just knew that that was my calling. It was the perfect combination of storytelling in space and what I loved about art and what I loved about architecture. So that led me on a 30-year journey of actually became a principal of a very large international museum exhibition design firm and became a part of SEGD. And I was on the board of SEGD probably 12 years ago and had the opportunity to meet the most amazing peers from all around the globe. I mean, actually many peers in the UK, and we hosted an event at the V&A and just found a passion for this organization. It was the only place where I felt like I could have a heart-to-heart conversation with maybe a competitor even, or find people to collaborate with. And 4 years ago, right at the beginning of the pandemic, SEGD advertised that they were looking for a new CEO. And I thought, what a great career opportunity for me to take my knowledge as a practicing designer and bring that to the nonprofit member organization. So
Had your name on it.
it had my name on it.
Yeah. Amazing.
The first conversations I had with some of my former competitors who were SEGD members thought it was pretty funny that I was going to the other side. But I think the board was looking for someone who was a designer so that they could bring that to the role. So
we've been to a few events, SEG events in the past, and that is one of those, it's kind of one of those things you've got to get over. You know, you're in a room, you're in a confined space with all the people you're battling with on RFPs. And, you know, sometimes you have that uncomfortable meeting outside of an interview where you cross paths. But apart from that, you kind of never together in the same place. And then at SEGD, everybody's there. I mean, I guess that brings us to, you know, the sort of SEGD purpose and why you exist. As individuals and members, you know, you kind of have to get over that weird, uncomfortable bit. And then actually when you start sharing issues and sharing problems and talking about the business, you find out that pretty much everybody else is in exactly the same boat as you are. And then it becomes, for me as a member, it becomes, you kind of start getting why it's so important, you know, about the community of practitioners rather than, and coming together, you kind of share some ideas, but also you kind of make friends as well, even though a few hours earlier you might have considered people competitors. So it's a really interesting community. So tell us about how it formulated and why it was set up and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, it started over 50 years ago, as you mentioned, in 1973, and it really was a result of some designers coming together who were working in architectural firms, realizing that the specialty area of practice of wayfinding and environmental graphics needed expertise. And that expertise did not necessarily rely by the architects who were designing the buildings. It was a specialty area. And so they formed in 1973 as the Society for Environmental Graphic Design with this initial focus on wayfinding, really helping people navigate spaces through effective signage and environmental cues. And we have always stood as an organization at the intersection of communication design and the built environment. So we're not strictly graphics and we're not strictly architecture, but it's that connecting people to place. And over these 50 years, we've really expanded globally and we broadened our focus for a wider range of disciplines. In 1993, we published our first white paper on accessible wayfinding, and that really set the stage for more inclusive design practices, of which we continue to renew and update. And in 2010, SEGD created universal symbols in healthcare, and that really contributed to improving communication in critical environments. And so, that was our starting point. But through the years, we've made a commitment to enhancing the human experience through placemaking and exhibition design and immersive digital experiences and beyond. And so as our industry has grown, SEGD's role in setting standards and providing education and fostering that interdisciplinary collaboration that you were talking about so that we can stay in the forefront of design innovation, but we're remaining focused on our thoughtful, inclusive designs that connect people to place.
Amazing. So the name now is Society of Experiential Design. When did you when did that transition happen, and what drove that?
Yeah.
Were you around then?
Actually, I was on the board at the time, and we were doing a new strategic plan. And for those of you that are environmental graphic designers, I can tell you that when I joined SEGD and people said, "What is it?" and you say environmental graphic, they think green design or sustainability. And it became a challenge, and it also became too narrow, I think, for the work that our members do. And as you know, and many of our members, they're more multidisciplinary. And so they might be working in education and they might do environmental graphics, but they also might do branding, or they might do some exhibition or workplace design. So that's why we changed the name. And really today, when you think of what differentiates design, it is that experience. It's how you make people feel in space.
Yeah. I mean, we're very much in that wayfinding space, but we're kind of the same thing. At the end of the day, great wayfinding is kind of about creating a better experience of how a person uses or interacts with a particular environment. So I always try and remind our guys, it's actually our mission is that, connect people and place, create better experiences. And we do that through wayfinding. Obviously, there's lots of other specialities and design disciplines that contribute to that as well. So you're right. I mean, it feels like a broadening of the audience, but still within that sort of community of experiential designers. So it makes perfect sense to me. Since that rebrand, did you see a broadening of the membership? Did it attract new people to the society?
Yeah, it definitely did. And I think, being a person who was doing exhibition design, I didn't have a home. I didn't have a home at AIA or interior. People would say, "Are you an interior designer?" I'm like, "No, I'm not an interior designer," because I'm really talking about communication and interpretation and space. So I think that we have found a really nice synergy, and particularly for up and coming designers that are going to school today, they aren't as siloed as we were. I think and I don't mean to put you in my generation, Gideon. I don't know how old you are, but certainly we're seeing a trend where they need more agility. You can be doing an experience for a live sports entertainment venue when that sports or football game or whatever is not on. What do you do the rest of the year? How do you activate spaces? So we need to be agile, and I think that makes us a very important design community in the broader, network of development and architecture.
Fascinating. So do you have examples of disciplines collaborating on projects or members that collaborate on projects? Does the approach kind of work, and do people get through this idea of competing and actually coming together and collaborating?
Yeah, I think they're great examples. And one certainly that comes to the front of my mind, because there's been a lot of publicity around it lately, is transportation hubs. So I don't know if you saw in the UK, but Portland, Oregon, PDX, I think is the first complete timber construction of an airport. But yet they have amazing facilities. So the Wayfinding group actually created kind of a storytelling narrative that would be the core of the design for that airport, which is around trees and the outdoors, which is what the state of Oregon is known for. That then evolved into a huge, beautiful media installation that moves through kind of space and time and different kinds of spaces for people to be. So we're seeing our members leading that, right? It's very innovative of how we think about spaces, whether it's an airport or think of the Amtrak redevelopment in New York City, which if you came to America and landed yourself at Amtrak a few years back, it was horrible compared to Europe. It was just dismal. Well, the redo of the Moynihan train hall is spectacular. And that again was there's probably 6 to 8 SEGD members that were part of that transformation. And it is a really unbelievable world-class experience now. And so, these pieces of whether it's digital, whether it's wayfinding, whether it's an interpretive thread that moves throughout a rebrand, that's where we're seeing this collaboration amongst our SEGD members kind of working together to create this overall experience.
It's good to hear. I mean, it's probably a topic for a different discussion, but I think sometimes how large design projects are procured, I mean, everyone talks about collaboration, but it doesn't always, the way things are procured doesn't seem to facilitate a smooth collaboration with plenty of disciplines. But does SEGD reach out to other societies like, in the UK we have REBA, is it in the States, is it AIA?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have you tried that? Does that happen?
Gideon, it's funny that you bring that up because for the first time ever in the history of the United States, I don't know if it's happened overseas, there was a D7 summit organized by the AIA in Kansas City, and they invited 7 CEOs of the top design organizations. So we had the CEO of the American Institute of Architects, American Institute of Graphic Arts, AIGA. We had the Planning Association, the Landscape Association, Interior Design, and myself. And we gathered for 3 days and talked about the things that we face together, whether that's artificial intelligence, whether that is fair pay, things like contracting, sustainability. And so we've begun those discussions for the first time. I've also been connecting with the Canadian Graphic Design Association, which does certification. That's a government-led entity, but that's been a mission of mine, and I really think that it's important. And as you mentioned, I think that's one of our biggest challenges is when there are contractors and developers involved that we get our members at the table soon enough. Because oftentimes what happens is there's expenses or budgets set that are unrealistic, or they just haven't accommodated the needs that you may have as an environmental graphic designer or wayfinding designer, or if there needs to be digital interfaces. So this is the thing, my mission as a CEO is to elevate our practice in the broader sense of design.
I think that'd be amazing. Because I think you've cracked it in terms of the community and creating that home that you talked about earlier. In terms of them raising SEGD profile within the wider design community and context, I think is that's a good mission to have. So good luck with that.
Yeah.
What else are you pursuing? What's driving the innovation in the industry? Do you have other initiatives that you're addressing, challenges, trends, etc.?
There's 2 big items that we are launching this year. The first is what we're calling the professional practice group. So going back to this concretization of our area of expertise and what our members do. So we've created, it's a collaborative platform for knowledge exchange and innovation. And we've broken this into 3 professional practice groups. So one is wayfinding and experiential graphics. Another one is museum exhibition and experience design. And the third is digital experiences and interactive media. And what we hope to do with those communities, and we've seen a ton of enthusiasm and excitement around these, is for those groups to begin to define standards, to update white papers, knowledge sharing. That as well becomes a resource for clients because we know that our SEGD website is a destination. We see who visits, and we know that clients are coming to say, who is the best at airport wayfinding? Who's doing the top museums in the world? What branded environments or branded experiences are delivering in sports and entertainment? Who is at the leading edge of hospital enhancement and experiential branding? So we know that our clients are coming there. What we are trying to create is a set of resources. Say, for example, a proper RFP. I'm sure, Gideon, you oftentimes get an RFP and you're like, who wrote this? Doesn't make any sense. So we think that our members who are experts working alongside the SEGD staff can begin to define these standards of practice. And we are an existing resource, so we know that we can continue to evolve that. So that's one thing, is our professional practice groups. And we kick that off in May. We're going to be gathering in person in Dallas, and then we also have monthly meetings with those groups. The second thing that we're doing is really focusing on sustainability. We need, as an organization, and because we're smaller than architects, I don't think there's been as much focus on how and what we bring to the table of sustainability. So our sustainability committee has 3 initiatives for 2024, 2025. We're announcing a new global design award. So say, Gideon, you all put in something for our design awards. If it had a sustainability message, it doesn't even have to necessarily be green products, but if it was communicating something like that,
Wellness,
you could add that, right? And we'll recognize those projects as best practices. So that's one thing. 2, we're going to be hosting a year-long series of webinars, which are accessible for members free, and they're online, so you don't have to travel. We try to do them so that if you're in Europe, you can join later. If you're on the West Coast, you can join early. So we'll be hosting those. And then the third thing is resources. So that if you want to know what manufacturers have green products, we know that the UK has a slightly different criteria than the US, but we'll be listing all of those, and those will be resources. So that's what we're focused on currently.
Yeah, that sounds amazing, because you're right. I mean, every RFP, well written or not, more often than not, there's a sustainability element to it now. And we're trying to run internal initiatives, set up materials libraries, try and really get under the skin of all the different building standards and where we can contribute to those standards. And I can bet your bottom dollar that 20 other studios, similar size, doing similar things, are all doing the same thing. So in a way, if there was an organisation such as you who's trying to help pull all that together and we can dip into it, I think that'd be an amazing resource. All those initiatives sound incredibly useful. So well done, and looking forward to see how those progress.
And we'll pick on you. We'll get you guys to join in and help too.
Well, we've got one of the technicians who's helping us on this is one of our main sustainability guys. So I'm sure you'll be delighted.
There we go. I'm recruiting.
Great. So back to more normal member stuff. Mm-hmm. We're in the UK. We always see, it's not a criticism, but SEGD been around 50 years. It's huge in the States. And I know you're doing a huge amount to try and internationalize with your chapters and things like that. So talk us through that. And for our huge international audience that this podcast gets, explain to the world how they can get involved and what they get from being a member and being an international member.
Well, the first thing to do is to go to segd.org. We rebranded last year for our 50th anniversary. We rebuilt a website. It actually was a Webby award winning, which is quite exciting here. So I would say that's the first place to start. The benefits really are, as you said, and joining as a member are, number one, just the resources. So we have webinars accessible. We have white papers accessible. We do a lot through education. So every year we invite papers for our academic summit. You don't have to be in academia. You can put a paper together as a professional. We host that virtually in June because we used to do it in person at the conference and we'd have about 50 people. Since COVID, we went online and now we'll have 350 people from around the globe. So we are seeing that our content, people in India and Australia and New Zealand and Seoul, Korea and the UK and Latvia, we do have a lot of activity and desire for those resources and those webinars. So that's one thing. Another thing is the networking. So we have something on our website that says find an expert or expert directory. And so you can go and find those firms, or clients can find those firms that are experts in the field of practice. You can also get access to people that you might want to collaborate with. And so that's great with that networking. We have a program called the EXP, which is targeted towards emerging professionals. That might be a student, but that could also be a lot of people change their career trajectory, midstream, and might go from being a graphic designer to an environmental graphic designer or exhibition design or digital. And so we have mentoring support for that. And through our professional practice groups that I mentioned, that's a great resource online that's members only, where you can say, I have a spec for this kind of a hospital signage. It needs to be X, Y, and Z. What do you recommend? So we have that kind of like member to member support. And then professional standards, things like that. And our Global Design Awards, which is very popular across the international spectrum. I think we had 74 different international entrants. And when you win an SEGD award, or even as a runner-up, you're put on our website. And we know that that's where people come to say, what's the best of the best? Who's doing the top work? And so before I was CEO of SEGD, I was always on the Global Design Awards website, just trying to find best practices. So lots of resources there. And then, as you said, we have our local chapters. So in London, I think they just hosted an event. It was sold out. I had people emailing me in the States, can you get me a ticket?
Ian will be pleased to hear that.
Yeah. So we do have local events. So once you sign on, you can kind of pick your cities, and you can pick multiple cities so you can see what's happening in different places.
Brilliant. For anyone listening if they've not heard of SEGD, or they have heard of SEGD but not kind of dipped their toe into experiencing what you offer, I'd highly recommend it. I think it's amazing. And we were fortunate to win an award a few years ago, I think 2019. And our specialism, again, there's not lots of awards programs. And whatever you think about awards programs, whether it's just marketing nonsense or whether it's, I find for us, it's brilliant for the internal team. It kind of validates their hard work. So we love it. But finding awards programs, it's much easier now than it was 15 years ago. And I'm just talking mainly from the UK. There's a lot of established awards programs that now kind of include a section for either wayfinding or experiential design, which is great. But we always thought that the SEGD one is like the gold standard in awards. So we were delighted when we won that one. And I think the fact that there are more awards programs, and even more just a recognition of the discipline. I think if I'd have, I was in that position. We said to people 15, 20 years ago, you talk about wayfinding, placemaking, and there's 9 times out of 10, there's a kind of a curious kind of, what the hell are you talking about? And now on large new build projects, refurbishment projects, there's usually, whether that RFP again is well written or not, more often than not, it's a line item saying wayfinding or interpretation or whatever it does. But at least it seems to be becoming more accepted. People putting together these large RFPs are including the design discipline. So I think, credit to you and SEGD. I'm sure it's that combined effort of raising the profile of the discipline that's helped with that. And, we have a few offices now around the world, and every one of them has a very active local competitive scene. The discipline it's spread very well, which is great. And I always think the more people talking about the subject, the more likely architects and clients will understand more and realise that these skills are available. So to end this, reflecting on the 50-year history, what do you think are I'll probably mention some of them then. What is the key legacy for the design industry, and how has SEGD helped shape the built environment that we know today?
My opinion, experience is the differentiator.
Yeah.
We're really seeing that in a post-pandemic world because we know that we can do a lot of things virtually. But if you are rushing your loved one to the emergency room, there's a cost of being lost, not just strictly from a wayfinding, but how you feel. Do you feel safe? Do you have a calming environment? We're seeing that our members are doing things, projects like the Sphere in Las Vegas, but they're applying that to healthcare. So we're the experts. The rest of the world may not realize that we've been doing this for 50 years, but there is an art and a science to placemaking, to experience design, and it enhances everything in the human condition. Education, hospitality, culture, placemaking. Do we love a city or do we not love a city? Do we love a part of a community? Is it worth going into the office? This is all our work. So I see the trajectory, and I already see it, where our architecture friends and interior friends and graphic friends are looking to our field of practice now because it is the differentiator. And differentiator means that you're going to see a return on investment. Retail and F&B, food and beverage, have transformed. They're about the experience. That's what the reviewer writes. It's not just the food, it's what the environment is like, and acoustically and experientially. So I always like to refer to the Maya Angelou quote of that people will forget what you said and what you did, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. That's what our members do. And so that's why I believe, looking to the future, we're already the leaders. So we just need to amplify that and to continue to share our great work, our beautiful practices. It's tactical, but it's also experiential. And it adds and enhances to the quality of life. Like, we know we need more joy. We need less stress. We need more spaces that make us feel welcome and let us do our job well. We know how to do that.
Well, that was beautifully articulated. I think that's probably a really wonderful place to end. I'll see you next week. IRL,
I'm so excited.
In real life.
In real life.
I'm really looking forward to it. And again, thanks so much for your time today. I think that was really, like I said, really well articulated. We'll have to record that. We'll probably see that in some of our comms. But yeah, really enjoyed that. Thank you so much.
Oh, Gideon, thank you all. And thanks to your team. It was a joy. And as you know, I love to spread the word and garner more interest in our profession.
Brilliant. Well, I can't wait to meet everybody. And see you next week.
Bring your cowboy boots.
Thank you for listening to our latest Wayfinding Xchange podcast. Stay tuned for further episodes and feel free to contact us with any questions and suggestions for future episodes.